We are recording with Miss Clare Lopez on Sunday, November 3rd, 2024 at 11:09 a.m. Eastern Time. Guys, you can go to the description. You can follow Claire's Twitter. You can find the links to all of her articles. And as we both just discussed, truly completely burned out and sick of all things elect. If I see one more poll or one more gotcha moment or one more, this is why Trump's a Nazi and this is why I'm gonna throw up if I see one more of these. As I just said to you, not only is it anxiety inducing, it's also just boring. It's the same song on repeat for 1,000 hours. It's like it's a bad song, but I would love to hear anything else at this point. And further, I mean, as always, I just make a thumbnail as a loose suggestion, but as you just so eloquently said before we start recording, we're acting as if the rest of the world no longer exists, but the rest of the world very much still exists. And we're 5% of the world's sure, we're the economic and military hegemon. I get that. We're also 5% of the world's population. The rest of the world is still going on. In particular, I don't know, North Korea helping out Russia and that quagmire. So, Ms. Lopez, where do you want to start?
Well, I'll just echo what you just said. First of all, yeah, it's the nonstop ads. It's people banging on my door. If one more person bangs on my door, I'm going to get a dog or something. I've had it with people banging on my door, ringing my doorbell. Luckily, I was gone for a good part of yesterday, and so however many came, they left those little doorknob flyers,
Yeah.
and they of course went immediately in the trash. I don't even know what they said.
Yeah.
Um, but I was out with a girlfriend. We went together to vote at our local DMV, which had early voting. And it was a beautiful day. The line moved smoothly. No complaints at all about how that was run. It was run very efficiently. So I'm glad about that. And yeah, the other thing is that it seems like every campaign that gets a hold of an email address like
Oh
mine,
God.
shares it or sells it or whatever with
Oh God.
everybody else on the planet, well, in the campaign of America, and my inbox just gets absolutely flooded. And so all I do in the morning is unsubscribe,
Yep.
unsubscribe, unsubscribe.
That's
Just
that's my
stop.
morning
Yeah.
thing. That's been my morning thing for the last month is I open
Yeah.
up Gmail, 88 unread messages. I'm like, how many do I actually have? I have two. I have one from you and one from Frank's speech.
That really matter. Yeah.
Same with texts. And it's the same thing.
Them
It's
too. Yeah, the
hello.
text too.
This is Eric Trump. I'm
I
texting.
mean,
I
yeah, I just
I
go
want
to
to yeah.
block and delete as junk.
Yes, precisely. And so yeah, no, I'm with you 1,000%. I can't. I really can't. I just want it to be over. And
Yeah. And the thing is, too, I have actually met in person and volunteered to help one, two, three, at least three or four candidates for different positions here in my home state of Virginia.
mhm.
And I keep getting messages from every one of them, but not a single one ever actually followed up with me.
No.
All I'm getting are their staff text messages filling my phone, but they themselves never ever bother to respond.
Yeah, it's nauseating and it kind of just seems to be America's this is our Olympics. It's every 4 years. This is our ritual that
Yeah.
we go insane about. But per that is so not only is the rest of the world still going on, it's actually, we're kind of entering that the window that you've spoken about, that a lot of people have spoken about,
Hmm.
the window between election day and inauguration. Will we see an uptick in, for lack of a more formal term, going for it? Be it Russia, be it Israel, be it China, be it whatever. There's a window that is going to jumpstart on Tuesday. Do you think that only, like, for everybody listening, could you explain what some of the windows are?
Yeah, so this is something that I've been mentioning on a number of the radio shows I've been booked on and podcasts and so forth over the last few days. And I've been citing this mostly, just about in every one, I think. And that's this, that very recently, last month, in the month of October 2024, The NIC, National Intelligence Council, that's the analytical arm of the U.S. intelligence community, issued a report. And in that report, they wrote that they expected that period, just like you're talking about, Tommy, between November the 5th, a couple days away now, Election Day, and January 20th, Inauguration Day 2025, in a couple of months. That period to be taken advantage of by America's enemies. And in particular, they named China, Iran, and Russia. But what they're talking about is not exactly on the ground, actions, attacks, or whatever. And we can talk about those because that might be a separate area too. But in this report, what the NIC is talking about are online media, social media um, uh, postings, either by themselves, by bots, by AI, what have you, that are not intended, again, because this is after the election, right? Not intended to sway the election one way or another for one candidate, another, or one party or another, but rather in the aftermath to sow dissension and discord and chaos among the American public, so that we are divided, maybe even more than we already are.
In terms of the actual physical on the ground movements, uh, what do you think is most likely, or at least not even most likely, what is of most concern of the actual physical military war material on physical Earth?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, I actually expected before this, before Election Day, in earlier weeks and months, that there would be more chaos on the ground. Now, certainly we've seen an awful lot of these protests and demonstrations on college campuses, certainly after the fall semester began. Um, but in terms of street violence, we have not really seen what I thought we would, and thankfully have not so far. It doesn't mean that it won't happen again in this window of vulnerability that I'm talking about when President Joe Biden is truly a lame duck, truly just not there. Um, and the next president, not yet sworn in, come January the 20th, of course. And the vice president, Kamala Harris, for the moment, off on the campaign trail all over other states in the United States, but not in the White House. So, maybe we've been leaderless already for a long time and have been, um, in the hands of a junta, which is what I've called it for a long time, of others running the government, be it Secretary of State Antony Blinken or Lloyd Austin at Defense, Jake Sullivan at the National Security Council, and so forth. Um, but a group, a junta, has been running this country. But they've proven themselves equally as feckless and really just inept. I'm trying to be kind here. Inept at what really running the United States of America government is about. Peace through strength comes to mind, but perhaps not for them. So that window again, when we're in their hands, perhaps even more so than we have been over the last 4 years. Um, I do expect to see more developments in the Middle East. We might notice that the United States has been surging military assets to the area, including B-52 bombers, including super tanker aerial refueling planes, other assets, naval
KC
assets.
130.
Hmm?
KC 130.
Yeah, KC-130s. Um, so that the Middle East, there are warnings and concerns that the Islamic Republic of Iran may launch an all-out attack again against Israel in this window, maybe even before Election Day. Some are thinking, meeting within the next couple of
It's,
days. Um, and that could really, blow up the region. So, fill the gas tanks now would be a good idea. And then, of course, in the Russia aggression against Ukraine, we now have it confirmed by the Pentagon that thousands of North Korean troops, North Koreans, are at least in Russia and in Kursk Oblast, that is the border area that the Ukrainians moved into last August, but possibly also those North Koreans even further into occupied Ukraine, the Donbass, for example. That could really blow up too, even further than it already has. And then finally, of course, China, would its leadership see this as a opportune time in their mind for a move against Taiwan? And are we at all even remotely prepared for such a thing?
I didn't know we'd move B-52s to the Middle East. What I mean, perhaps most probable outcome is, or most probable answer is I'm oblivious. Other than just the kind of basic tit for tat stuff that's been going on there since really October last year. What it is because it feels like every month Iran's like we're doing it and then they don't do it and it just
There's a
kind
lot of that. Yeah.
of then what's the
But
specific uptick
well,
of U.S.
I mean,
military and
here,
war material?
yeah, here's the thing. Over the last, I would say, most of this past year, maybe, I have heard from leadership figures of the Iranian regime, from the supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, down to and including, those others in his regime, more um, open statements about the Iranian regime's intention to and progress in developing a deliverable nuclear weapon capability. Now, everybody knows they've been working on nuclear weapons for the past basically 45 years. There's not, footnote here, not a nuclear power on the face of the earth that has taken 45 years to get to deliverable nuclear weapons once it decided to go for a capability. But the openness, the frankness of these statements, belligerent as they are, coming from the top levels of the Iranian regime, seem to me to indicate that they are a lot farther along with that deliverable nuclear weapons capability than perhaps most open outlets and statements have led on up until now. It's always been my belief, my analysis that the regime has already gotten to a small handful of nuclear warheads, maybe five, six, seven, fewer than 10, maybe I'd say, but that they have those. Now, the red line, the final red line, it seems to me, for Israel would be not just, the production of those maybe handful of nuclear warheads, but if they detect moves towards attaching them to the nose cones of their missiles. Now, we know that both in April this past year, the night of 13-14 April, remember that? And then more recently, now on the 1st of October, that the ballistic missiles that the Iranians launched at Israel were nuclear capable. Now, thankfully, in both cases, both in April and in October, most of the projectiles were shot down. They were interdicted before striking Israel or causing, catastrophic damage. But they were intended to cause catastrophic damage. But the point here being that the ballistic missiles among those projectiles were nuclear capable. Their nose cones could have carried nuclear payloads. So when the Iranians begin to attach those warheads that they do have, however many it may be, to the nose cones of the missiles, which we of course know they have because they've shot them off at Israel multiple times, um, I think that would be a real inflection point, and Israel would absolutely have to respond preemptively, anticipatory self-defense, of course, legal under international law, recognized for centuries. That could be coming soon, given the statements coming out of the regime again, and their unusual, to me at least, seems unusual openness about their intentions for nuclear weapons, which they denied for decades previously. Oh, no, no, we have no intention. We just want to have, I don't know, a backup for energy, or whatever. But more recently, as I've said, they are now openly talking about, yes, we think we need a nuclear weapons capability. And yes, we've enriched to X percentage of, enriched uranium and so forth. Again, just more open statements that seem to me, whatever they say openly, they've probably gone way beyond that, you know, um, actually on the ground.
What's the delay? If they have we know they have the missiles, and if they have the warheads, how much of a, I mean, I'm not a ballistics expert, so I understand that, and I know it's, you gotta, I guess, miniaturize them, or they have to be able to survive launch forces. What's the holdup then? If they're as hell-bent as they
Well,
are to destroy Israel, you feel like they'd like when the U.S. detonated the Trinity in Alamogordo that evening. That evening, we sent over the pieces to Tinian, or on the way. So there's like an 8 hour delay where the nuke worked, and we were like, all right, send it.
well, remember what happened a little more than a week ago, when Israel finally launched that retaliatory strike against Iran for its October 1st barrage against
Yes.
Israel. And about a week ago, what Israel did was take out the Iranian regime's aerial defense system. They took out the radars, some of them in Syria, some in Iraq, opening the corridor, opening the way for the IAF fighters, the jets, to enter Iranian airspace undetected. And then they took out the three remaining S-300 aerial defense systems that Iran had. We'll remember that back in that first retaliatory strike by Israel against Iran, again, April 13, 14, that night, they took out one of the batteries, and that battery was geographically located, I think, significantly between um, the nuclear enrichment site at Natanz and the nuclear conversion site at Isfahan. So that one was already gone in April. They took out three more in and around Tehran, as I understand it, in this recent strike a little more than a week ago. They also took out missile launch sites, missile launch capabilities, and also hit facilities that, like at Parchin, for example, that produce, that manufactured the solid rocket fuel propellant for Iran's ballistic missile. So they don't have that capability anymore. But more to the point, their aerial defenses are gone. That could be a reason why they hesitate.
Fair enough. Yeah, I guess we're kind of seeing, how hardcore are they? Is it for, excuse my French, is it all just shit talking, or are they actually going to go for it, right? They have the ability now, and but it's like, oh, they're going to hit us back. Well, let's see how radical they are, right? Are you really death to America, death to Israel? Or is that conditional? So that is kind of interesting. Um, then why? So if we're just sending more and more, where are we sending these things? Just to bases we have over there in like the
Well, for
UAE and
example, the two, I think it was two B-52 bombers that left North Dakota a couple days ago, I guess, arrived, I think it was yesterday, uh, at the Al Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar. So that's one place, but elsewhere around the region as well.
that is what's that's assumed to be just a deterrent against Iran, or a follow up.
Well, preparation for whatever's to come. Yes, maybe deterrent, hopefully to stop anything before it starts, but um, the capability there to help to defend Israel if and when that becomes necessary again.
I don't like any of this.
No, none of us does.
Why is North Korea sending troops to Russia? I thought they were kind of China's lapdog. Or I guess I don't know. Is that China's will?
Well, Russia has lost an enormous number of manpower troops in its aggressive invasion of Ukraine since February of 2022. The numbers are upwards, killed and injured, upwards of 600,000
Gee.
lost on the Russian side. Now, of course, the Ukrainians have also lost humongous numbers. But that could be part of why Russia is turning to North Korea to augment, um, sorry, but essentially it's cannon fodder because that's what
Hmm.
they're going to be. Why would Kim Jong-un agree to this? He's already been supplying other things, munitions and things that Russia needed for its war effort against Ukraine. Um, but why? Well, it takes what is it, 3,000? We've heard are over there now. 3,000 mouths that the Kim Jong-un regime doesn't have to feed for now, and maybe never again if they indeed are cannon fodder. The troops themselves get to go someplace where they're actually going to be fed. So there's that. Um, and I don't know beyond that, but there's real concern, that South Korea is now considering sending at least a delegation to Ukraine to monitor what the North Korean troops are doing.
Why? Just in general because they're at each other's throats for decades.
Well, there's been rising tensions
Yeah.
along the DMZ between North and South Korea, and the South Koreans want to keep tabs on what North Koreans are doing. Um, and so I guess they're sending this delegation over to I think to Kiev.
Is there any good news in the world? Can we maybe deviate from our current spiral? Is there any good news in the world? I mean, is there an uptake in anything? Is there been like a cancer research breakthrough or like a new technology? Is there anything good? It's just not you. It's not your fault. You're the
No,
messenger.
I
I'm not
know,
gonna
but we
shoot the
are
messenger.
talking some
It's
pretty
just like
dismal stuff here.
well, that
Um,
and with the election, it's just like every day is just doom, gloom to the point where you're like, I mean, I find myself like putting my phone down and just being like, I just gotta like look at the clouds for 20 minutes, like it or just see like a bird chirping, like
well, I'll tell you what. I live in Northern Virginia,
yeah.
near Washington, D.C., and we have had the most absolutely gorgeous weather for the last few days and today. Bright and sunny and clear azure skies. Uh, no rain for a long time, and that's okay. We had plenty before. And yesterday, when I did go to vote, um, the lines at my DMV early voting place were moving very smoothly. Didn't have to stand in line much longer than, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes maybe max. Um, and that was very well run. Kudos to the team in Woodbridge, Virginia at the DMV. That went very smoothly. And election day will be over in, 48 hours plus.
There we go. There's a nice shift. Yeah, it'll be what did I see back and forth. This computer's an iMac. The other one I have is a I guess PC, and you get like auto news updates, which I hate. But
Yes, me
it'll
too.
just
Yeah,
pop
yeah,
up where like the clock is, so I can't ignore. And a lot of the times it's just brain dead, like the Kardashians. But
yeah.
I've just kind of been seeing the last week. It's like tit for tat, where I'll be booting up a game or something, and it will be so I said Supreme Court, and I'll click on it, and it's the Supreme Court is full of Nazis. They're supporting Donald Trump. The next day, it's like Supreme Court hands a defeat to Donald Trump, and then the next day, it's like Supreme Court is in the hands of Trump.
Well,
What is going on with SCOTUS?
Tommy, buckle up because these legal challenges and lawsuits and court cases are going to go on for quite a while. even after election day itself. Maybe I shouldn't say even after. Maybe I should say especially after.
Especially, yeah, yeah, no. I mean, I think you and I can't speak for you. I can speak for myself in that I'd still truly believe, just from my own subjective experience watching the election 4 years, I guess today, was Trump winning and then it pausing and just absurd, I mean, statistically impossible things, 300
Overnight. Right, right.
300,000
Yeah,
ballots coming in and
yeah,
100% of them were for one kid. That's
yeah.
just that doesn't happen with 100 ballots. I mean, maybe if if it's, I don't know, it's from Harvard or something, it's a bunch of college students maybe. But statistically impossible things that were happening not once, but statistically, I mean, it's like winning the lottery 8 times in an evening. It was just, so to me, I just look at that and I go, that's fraud. It
Yeah,
is
of
what it is.
course.
It just
Yeah.
is what it is. I was too young for the 2000 election, but I do remember like seeing it. I remember the hanging chads, but I was 10 when that was happening. How much of it has been cleaned up? How much of it is being monitored? How much of it is there not even monitored? Because we've kind of seen that that doesn't matter. If courts just say there's no standing and we're not going to hear you, it doesn't matter how much evidence you bring. How much, and I understand that there will never be an election anywhere in human history that doesn't have a degree of fraud. I understand that. How likely is it? Because as much as I want Trump to win, if it was a free and fair election and Kamala won, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't be happy about that. But if it was legitimately free and fair, there is part of me that would say like, well, I control Tommy Carrigan's life, but I'm a member of a country with 350 million people, and it's bigger than me. If the majority of people voted for someone else, hey, that's like my team losing, but they lost. My the obvious problem is if it's fraudulent or not. So, uh, again, if it was free and fair and Kamala won, I wouldn't like that. I don't think it'd be great, but there would be a degree of like, well, this is what people voted for. Not that you have the, quadrillion-dollar crystal ball, but are we going to see anything resembling free and fair? Are we going to see anything resembling 2016 where Trump won and everyone hated it, but he still won? Are we going to see that? Is it just going to, because it's also things have gotten so bad that and I fear this because I'm 34 and I'd like to have a long life ahead of me. It seems like if it's stolen again, there are a lot of people who are kind of at the end of their rope and they're going to force it to go kinetic. And I don't want that because I have a biology degree. I have no survival skills. I have no military background. But that's kind of, I think, where my nervousness comes in. It's less about do I want my candidate to win? Because that's, again, whatever. That's cheering for the Red Sox or the Yankees. It's more so about if it is openly fraudulent, if all the counting pauses in all of the swing states and ballots come in at 4 a.m. and windows are blocked. I mean, I really do fear that there's a lot of people, a lot of veterans who are just kind of going like, I've killed for this country, I've buried friends for this country, I'll do it again. That's like my deep internal fear is selfishly, I'm 34. I would like to live a long life. I'd like to get married and have kids and do the whole human thing. That's where my fear comes in, is like that's how I look at it. It's less about Trump has to win. I'd like for him to win. I like his policies. It's less about that. I just want it to be like as fair as it can be, with the understanding that all elections are to a degree fraudulent. Do you have any thoughts on any of that? Is there any like silver lining I can look to, or is it really just like load your gun and fill your gas tank?
I think we're in a very different place this year, 2024, than we were back in 2020. Um, there is a much greater awareness of all the things that you're talking about, the various ways that elections can be fraudulent, that what kind of cheating went on, um, all of that. And with the new leadership um, at the RNC, Republican National Committee, with Michael Whatley and Lara Trump, for example, I think that they have taken a lot of steps in preparation for this election to ensure as best as possible that they will be free and fair. As you probably have seen already, there have been legal cases put forth in a number of places. And I'll mention, let's see, in Pennsylvania, there were a whole bunch of registration applications that grabbed attention because of the similarities, like umpteen dozens of them with the same address, that sort of thing, that were obviously fraudulent. That went up into the courts. Um, in Buck County in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania again. I might remember the story some few days ago, last week, when a number of voters standing in line were told to go home, even though it wasn't poll closing time.
Oh
They were being
yeah.
shoved out. Go home, go home, go home. And because of that and a legal challenge to that, voting in person, voting there in Buck County by a judge's order was extended by I think it was 3 days, and that was a win. Um, let's see what else until Friday, so a couple days ago. In Michigan, another case of thousands of duplicate voters apparently on the voter rolls, ascribed up to formatting errors, but it was caught. It was caught. It was flagged, and it's being taken care of. Let's see, where else? Kentucky. There were machines, and Texas too, as I understand it. Kentucky and Texas, where voting machines, now every state ought to be voting on paper. In Virginia, we vote by paper, on paper ballots. And then they're tabulated in a machine, but they are filled out on paper. But in Kentucky and Texas, voting machines in a number of counties, Tarrant County, I believe in Texas, maybe others, they were shifting votes. People would pick Trump, and the machine shifted it to Kamala, and so that was flagged legally and has been addressed. These are the kinds of things that are happening even before the election, which means that there are teams out there on the alert and with the backup in terms of legal backup, lawyers, to put these things to lawsuits. Um, and then, of course, in my own state of Virginia, um, the governor, Glenn Youngkin, found what was it, 100 and I forget the number, some over 100,000 um, non-citizen names on the voter rolls, and moved to erase those, to take them off the voter rolls. That was protested, went all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. The Supreme Court ruled that those names could indeed be removed, but there are backup safeguards in Virginia, and it goes like this. So those people who were removed, if somehow, they completed their citizenship application process between the time when probably at a DMV with motor voter rolls, they checked the box that said not a citizen. Between that time and now, when their names are to be removed from the voter rolls, if somehow they completed, their citizenship process, they may vote with provisional ballots. And those ballots then are set aside pending their chance, and they have the chance, they're called in to show that yes, they completed their citizenship process and they are now valid U.S. citizens able to vote. So there are fail safes, there's safeguards, but another win because people were looking out. Because in Virginia, we have a terrific governor, that's part of it, Glenn Youngkin, and a terrific attorney general, Jason Miatis, too.
So there's a much greater chance that it's good, or there's going to be a much lesser level of, I suppose, accepted fraud or fraud that goes under the radar or can't be
Yeah.
caught.
Yeah. And I also know from statements made by, again, Michael Watley, Lara Trump, that they have thousands of lawyers on standby across the country in every state, but in particular the battleground states, ready to act if the need arises.
Yeah, I mean, and like that's all which I know is a big want. It's not like I just want $1 billion. Hey, it took a long time of human civilization to get to a point where we have, democratic elections, but that's all. I mean, again, it's I don't know. I get it more as like a free market as opposed to a centralized economy. The free market works because it's a bunch of independent nodes with self-preservation. So you're always going to get a much more natural market as opposed to a centrally planned thing. My logic for, elections is if even the person I don't want if I don't want to win wins, I try to look at it as, well, there's everyone is an independent node with their own interests in mind of profit, of mortgage, of kids, wife, husband, whatever. And then perhaps I would have to be humble enough to say maybe they see something I don't see. So if she wins over him and it's free and fair, then there's a much greater degree of, hey, there's a reason why everyone chose that. And it might just be a difference opinions, or they might see something I don't see. It's like if one doctor tells you this and then you go get a second and third opinion and they all tell you something else, it's not that one doctor's bad as so much as you'd go, yeah, well, a greater number of doctors said something else. So maybe they see something, maybe there's a shared wisdom or whatever. And not that you asked any of this, but this is just kind of how I view like elections is so long as it's again as it fair as it can be, so long as it's free and fair, yeah, I'm okay with like my guy not winning. I just go, well, a greater number of other adults who also have their own lives. Maybe they don't have podcasts, but maybe whatever. They're all going about their best interest, and they're going, no, I want that one over that one. And I have to be humble enough to say, perhaps I don't have the answer to everything, and that's why they voted for this person. So, and that's like, I'm okay with that. I really am. And if, we free and fairly elect someone in and it results in a further demise, well, that's kind of, that's deterministic, that's fatalistic. I don't think I really have any control over that. But that's where like if Trump just got his ass handed to him in 2020, like I'm fine with that. Whatever. Like all right, yeah, sure. Your guy loses. Get over it. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is what seemed to be a controlled coup and installment of a junta behind a brain dead man and have resulted in disastrous border policies, disastrous economic downturn, disastrous inflation, and disastrous foreign policy. And again, this isn't something where it's the sports team you don't like one and you go, hey man, why don't you turn off the TV? This is affecting my life. And I'd still think I'm relatively young and I would like to live a normal life. So in that sense, I'm selfish, but like that's all I really want. It's like I don't want the outcome that seems like it's going towards Civil War and or World War III. That's all I really want. I don't Trump loses, whatever. I mean, it's when it's very clearly manipulated by a minority power against the will of the people that I know enough history to go like this goes nowhere good. It's very eventually it stops being something you see on TV and it starts being something you see outside. And that's what I don't want, which I think is a pretty normal thing. So I don't really know where I was going with that. I don't think there's really
Well,
a question in
you
there.
know, all of that said, this election really is critically important for the future of the republic. No, we're not a democracy, and the
Yeah.
founding fathers took great pains to ensure that we would not be a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. But the last thing I'll mention here, and I've been talking about this on any number of, radio and podcast shows and so forth over the last few days, Um, if I can make a plug for the United West, Tom Trento's group, with which I've worked for many, many years. TheUnitedWest.org is the
Yeah,
website. But if
that's
you
in the
go
description.
there,
That's it's in the description. It's in the yeah.
okay, great. You will see on the home page a graph, a chart showing the six, I think it is six or maybe seven, of the major swing states, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, and so forth. And it shows on the graph the contrasting numbers of how many millions of Christians live in these states and are registered, but in 2020 did not vote.
Hmm.
And then the graph compares that number who did not vote, millions upon millions, with the margin by which Biden claimed victory in those same states, which was literally minuscule compared to the number of Christians. um, you know, 40, 50,000 here, there, whatever. Take a look at that chart, that graph. It is incredibly important, that Christians in all of these, especially, I mean, everywhere, but especially um, the swing states, the battleground states, that all of you all get out and vote. It really does make a difference whether we're going to be run by a pair of communists, yes, Maoist communists, or if we will make America great again as a constitutional republic.
Realistically, in the last 10 minutes or so, realistically, um, what do you see happening in the wake of a Trump win, from the immediate to the resistance that there will be, but then to what actually happens when he takes office?
Well, the first thing is to be aware that there may be street chaos. I think that very
Yeah,
well
that's a given.
um, could happen. Certainly in the big Democrat blue run cities like Washington, D.C., Chicago, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Milwaukee, other places. I think that is a real possibility. I hope that those cities are prepared to um, not just confront all that, but maybe to deter it in the first place. But then, as for the Trump administration policies, we've heard him say over and over again in his rally speeches and elsewhere that one of the first anyway, big steps he's going to take is to shut down the border. Give CBP, Customs and Border Protection, who desperately want to do their jobs as American patriots who joined CBP to defend this country, give ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, back their authority to close the border, and then probably under a Tom Homan, former acting director of ICE for Trump in the last administration, give them the authority not just to close down the border, but to begin massive deportation proceedings, not just proceedings, do it. Um, beginning with those identified as criminals, gang members, jihadis, terrorists, um, and certainly with a special focus on some of these really brutal gangs like MS-13 and Tren de Aragua out of Venezuelan prisons, beginning with those. So I think that'll be one of the first um, policies that will go into implementation for a Trump administration. Um, Other things will be to open back up gas and oil production in this country. ANWR, of course, up in Alaska, other places offshore, for example. I think that'll be pretty quick. That will be opened back up again to renew, our energy production and make us not just energy independent, but energy dominant in the world, where we can actually help support some of our friends and allies, for example, over in Europe again. So I think that's high on the list. Um, there's a whole bunch of other things, I'm sure, but those two tops come to mind for me.
Yeah, I think was it Washington State deployed the National Guard yesterday preemptively
Oh,
for
did they? I did not
I
even
I
see that.
believe I
Yeah,
believe so, and I don't know if other states have followed suit, but that's yeah, I mean that'll be interesting. It's but I don't know. I guess I look at it as more like I'd rather Trump win and then have to deal with that than vice versa. Um,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
with you.
I don't know. I mean, I try to look at just like indicate again, I don't know anything about this, so I truly have no idea what I'm talking about. But I try to look at some indicators like I don't have any warm and fuzzy feelings about like Jeff Bezos. I understand he's, worth $100 zillion, but it's not nothing that he informed
Mm,
Washington Post to not endorse
Washington Post.
Kamala.
Uh-huh.
It's not nothing that the LA Times didn't endorse Kamala. It's not nothing that came out several months ago and has continued to say he will not be taking any directives from the current administration per news around the election, which these all seem like what it should be. But again, we're living in clown world, so basic, basic common sense is now seen as some paragon of achievement. But those aren't nothing. And the one I also look to um Anderson Cooper talking to Kamala a week ago or 10 days ago or whatever it was about the border and not even the whole, what you've been in charge of no, I get all of that. It's a gotcha, real zinger. The fact that that happened at all though and was aired, like
Yeah,
this is especially, it's one thing for them to do that against a Democrat. This was 2 years ago. You could say, yeah, they're trying to get, trying to get a small win with the conservatives or the undecideds. It's very odd to do that 2 weeks before the election. Like you close ranks. That's just for better or worse, tactically, that's what you do.
yeah, but
And
they're not, are they? They're not.
no, and so, but these are non-insignificant things. Even again, I know she's an airhead, but AOC putting on Instagram, I think like 2 weeks ago, like the Harris Biden and not Biden, saying like the Harris Biden administration needs to, and I don't, regardless of this, is would they need to stop, they would need to put an embargo on weapons to Israel because what's happening in Gaza is regardless of that. Again, I look at it more as the fact that that was set, regardless of what it was, criticizing Israel, criticizing the border, criticizing, trans surgeries in minors, whatever it is. The fact that something dissenting was said, number one, by a major Democratic, I guess, member, AOC, or in the other case, Anderson Cooper, and that it was said this close to the election. What was said doesn't really matter. The fact that a major player said something dissenting this close to the election, Anderson Cooper, AOC, WAPO are being directed to not endorse, LA Times not. Those are all, those are not trivial things. Those are, and to, they sound, even when you name them off, they're like, yeah, those are kind of interesting. But they're interesting in that it's the iceberg. If you just see the tip of it and you see like five tips, anyone with any amount of rational thought would say there's a huge thing under the surface over there, and it's not insignificant. So, in terms of election outcome, assuming that there's much less fraud, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Is those are non-insignificant, and then and the other minor ones, Tulsi Gabbard's pushing parties, RFK endorsing Trump, those canards on the side. Those all tell me that there is a massive groundswell for Trump. I like Trump. I voted for him in 2020 and I'm gonna vote for him again. So I also understand that I'm biased and I'm also seeing what I want to see. I get that. But just if I was a betting man and I wasn't American and really didn't care about America, I was just looking at just finances, these are all things I would look at and go, oh, I'm going to put money on Trump. As coldly and detached as you would a horse race or something. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I have no idea if it's accurate. I guess we'll find out in 48 hours. But above all else, I just want this to be over, as I think you do too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just add real quickly some of the own goals of the last week or so. these foot and mouth zingers coming out of Biden about, Trump supporters being garbage. And then what happens?
Oh yeah.
Trump just steals the show in
You're
a
looking like garbage.
trash
High vis
collector,
vest. Yeah.
reflective vest showing up in a, trash collection truck. And then, of course, Mark Cuban's stupid remark about the women around Trump aren't intelligent or strong. And then every last one of them goes, all over social media, anywhere from his, beautiful, brilliant, #1 bestseller book, Melania Trump, his wife, to his daughters, Ivanka and Tiffany, his daughter-in-law, Lara, we've talked about her, married to Eric, of course, and then other women that have worked with and for President Trump, from Adana Perino to Kellyanne Conway to Kayleigh McEnany to his lawyer, the one that I'm really impressed with, Elena Haba. The list can go on and on. These are own goals. And boy, Trump and the team are, and they're having a great time. Honestly, they're having fun in these last days. And the last thing I'll say is that in the various rallies, and there've been so many of them these last couple of days. I think there are 3 scheduled for today alone. Um, Trump Trump is giving a message that's upbeat. It's hopeful. It's positive. It is looking ahead. It's Reagan-esque. I remember Reagan. And he's conveying a sense of positivity and hope for the future. Our best days lie ahead of us. That's something to uplift people, not, the doom and gloom and jabbing and hatred of the other side.
Not this. I mean, I thought it was kind of interesting. I listened to the JD Vance interview with Rogan.
Hmm.
I'd actually never heard anything about it before. I watched the Trump one. That was funny, but it was nothing new. If you know Trump and or Rogan, then you've seen the episode. The importance of him going on Rogan was it now draws a contrast to Kamala not going on.
Well, and the humongous audience they reached there.
Yeah, it was like 50 million in a couple days, and then another 50 million on Twitter. Um, and that's not including Spotify, which I don't think he's released. But listening to Vance, just in general, I mean, the basket of deplorables or your garbage to I think a lot of conservatives didn't like it, but I actually really appreciated it. Is he said, I think fundamentally most of the people voting for Kamala are probably decent Americans who just think differently than me. Just that the basic, like, the fact that that is even a superlative is kind of an indicator of like where we are. I'm not saying that. Listen, there's a lot of backstabbing treasonous Marxists that I mean legitimately need to be cleaned out like cancer. But in general, if I look at, like, I don't know, the dude I see at the gym, and if you like, what am I gonna say? Oh, you're a satanic Marxist. Like, no, he might just think differently than me. Like, I get that, and that's, I think, the difference is like they're all garbage versus, like, yeah, saying like, yeah, they're probably decent people. Like, even that is just, it's such a contrast. Um, I don't know. Maybe that might be a weakness. Maybe that's, why the left seems to win is because they're bloodthirsty, but I don't know. I have no idea. Um,
You're very kind,
I, I don't.
kind-hearted kind of a
I,
guy.
I that's great effort. It's not natural. Um, but yeah, I think overall this episode was more positive than I thought it would be. So I'm happy about that. So everybody listening, please go to the description, follow Claire on Twitter, follow all the links and all the writings and United West and all that good stuff. And again, please just go follow her on Twitter. Miss Lopez, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Tommy.
Yes, ma'am. And yeah, you
Catch
know
you
what?
next time when it'll all be over. Maybe.
And maybe, right? In a week, it might be like, so DC has been seized by the Marines, but Seattle has fallen. I'll be like, oh, God. So I don't know. Miss Lopez, till next time. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, thank you for watching. God bless America. God bless everybody.